Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Carrying on with our fiqh, we had finished off with Babul Hayd. Inshallah, today we'll be moving on to the last chapter in Kitab al-Tahara. And according to the Hanafi madhab, or in their books mainly, you'll find the last chapter in Kitab al-Tahara is called Babul Anjas. Anjas from Najasa, plural. So this chapter is speaking all about impurity. A few things: how to clean impurity. Number two is there's certain najasa which in certain amounts is forgivable in the sense that it can be overlooked, and inshallah we'll get to that. So why do they mention this? Firstly, a person performing salah, he's got to keep three things clean. First is his body. Okay, let's speak about badan. Second is his clothing should be clean, so his thawb. And third is, they say al-buqa'ah, ba, qaf, ain, ta. Buqa'ah means the place where he's performing his salah should be clean. And if you remember, when we first started with Kitab al-Tahara, we said that there's a definition. You either cleansing from hadath, and we've spoken all about hadath, hadath akbar, hadath asghar, metaphorical impurity. Now we're speaking about khabath, that impurity, that najasa, that is tangible, that's visible. And it could either be on a person's body, or it can be on a person's clothing, or it can be on the place where a person will be performing salah, i.e. the piece of earth or wherever it may be. So that's the first thing you take into mind. Second is, they start telling you these different things, there's different ways to cleanse them. With some of these things, you find that they're a bit more lenient in allowing you to clean, and in others, there's not so much leeway. So the first is when it comes to a person's body and garment. Okay, say al-badan wa thawb. Thawb meaning the garment, piece of clothing. Okay, let's say some sort of najasa falls on this. The way you cleanse it is by using water, and water is agreed upon with the other madhahib also. And then there's an opinion in the Hanafi madhab that also allows you to use any liquid that cleanses. So they say, for example, rose water or vinegar. And in the world we live in today, you've got these detergents. So if you got some najasa on your clothing, you either clean it, your clothing or your body, you either clean it with pure water, it's not mixed, or you can clean it with any liquid that removes this najasa. So these liquid soaps, etc. If you need to clean, you clean. And this is in the Hanafi madhab. This here is in the Hanafi madhab only. It's an opinion. Imam Abu Hanifa and Imam Abu Yusuf and the madhab take their opinion. The reason why I mention this is in the other madhahib, they are very strict when it comes to water only. Okay, so water and water alone. So for example, they mention that built upon this mas'ala, if somebody gave their clothing to a place where, let's say, they put their clothing in the dry cleaners, for example, and there was najasa on it. As you know, dry cleaning, they use a special liquid. It's not water. Even if that najasa was removed, according to them, it wouldn't be clean. Why? Because they said you must use water. So the Hanafi madhab gives you a little bit more leeway in the sense that water or any cleansing liquid, in our terms, any cleansing detergent that cleans, then your garment will be considered clean. Number two, is when it comes to the khuf, the leather sock, okay? Notice how this is also a garment, but it's got a slightly different ruling. They say if some sort of the najasa that comes on it could be of two types, okay? Khuf. Either it's najasa that's got a body that's almost like a solid that can be seen, okay? And then you got that najasa which is not like that. So, for example, uh, when speaking about, let's say, the droppings of a dog, okay, if it had to come onto somebody's thawb or somebody's hoof, not thawb, somebody's hoof whilst they're walking, okay, something tangible, something physical, something you can touch. Here, because it's got what they call a jirm. Jirm is it's got a physical property. It's got a body. Here you can wipe it, and it's enough. You can wash it if you wanted to, but wiping is enough. And if it's something that's liquid, okay, here they say you must wash it. Why? Because if you wipe, it's going to spread. And common sense, if something's got a body to it, by wiping it, it will be removed. Otherwise, you'll have to wash it. And then number 3, they speak about, and notice how this all goes under things which are worn. So this is the asl, this is the rule. And then you've got a few slight exceptions. Number 3, they tell you that when it comes to semen of a man, okay, again, in the Hanafi madhab, they say that semen is najis. Najis. The other madhab, they say semen is clean. So they tell you in the Hanafi madhab that, let's say a person has a wet dream, for example. Here they must wash the garment or the piece of clothing. However, if it's dried, okay, you're allowed to scrape it off, and that's enough. So only if it's dry. They use the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha. The other madhahib use the hadith of Aisha radiallahu anha, where the Messenger sallallahu, where she says that she used to like scratch out the semen that had dried up from the garments of the Messenger sallallahu. The other madhahib use it to say that this shows that semen is clean. Okay, yes, hadath akbar, person must make ghusl, but the clothing is clean. Hanafi madhab say no. If it's wet, it's still najis, you must wash it. However, if it's dry, you still have to cleanse it, but it's a little bit lighter in the sense that if you scrape, it's okay. Then they tell you that there's certain things which are shiny or which are smooth that don't absorb najasa. For example, they give the example of a sword or a mirror or something of the like, something shiny. Say here it's enough just to wipe it. So, for example, if a person slaughtering, you find when they're slaughtering sheep, after they cut, the blood that gushes out is najis, and generally you find they just take the knife and they wipe it. It's a form of purification. And then they speak about al-buq'ah, or the earth, the place, in fact, more specifically al-ard. Al-ard, the earth or the ground where a person wants to perform salah, for example. If there's some sort of najasa, now pay close attention. This earth, you're either going to use it for salah or you're going to use it for tayammum. If there's some sort of najasa that's fallen on the earth, let's say an animal urinated there, okay? If the najasa dries with the sun, for example, and there's no athar, there's no remain of that najasa left, there's nothing to show there's najasa, you can perform salah on it. Otherwise, if it's still wet, obviously avoid that patch or that portion and you wash it. As for making tayammum, here even if the ground is dry, they don't allow you to make from that ground. Why? Because tayammum is a form of purification. So here they'll say that as long as there's najasa, whether it's dried or whether it's still wet, you're not allowed to use it. As for the earth, if it's wet, it's najasa that's fallen on the earth, it's wet, you can't perform salah on it. If it's dry, then you can perform salah on it. And then tomorrow they speak about, inshallah, they speak about najasa, which is looked over or forgiven. So if you see from this, these are the main things. They're speaking about the body, so the body you wash. Speaking about the garment and washing the body, we mainly took in wudu and ghusl and that type of thing. Thobe, this we took all to do with badan, thobe, khuf, and then we took mani or semen. And then they spoke about al-buqa'ah, the earth or the place a person is performing salah. Alam gheer.
Yes, yeah.
If a person puts what they call today a sujjada or musalla in their house, they want to read salah, and then let's say a child urinates on that musalla, and then they leave it in the sun to dry, or it dries by itself in the sun. Can you still perform salah on that musalla or no?
I think it should be washed.
And what if it dried with the sun?
Yeah, I think in Hanafi madhab you can still read salah.
Anyone else? Are you going to consider that, Ibrahim?
Would it be like the semen then, where if it's dried, you have to scrape it off?
No, you can't compare urine and semen.
I think it is allowed when if the traces are gone, when it's dried up and the traces are gone.
Well, you have to
Look
clean it.
look into that mas'ala in the Hanafi madhab and tell me the answer tomorrow, inshallah. Are you going to consider it? Are you going to consider sujjada to be like a thawb, piece of material, or you're not? And in the Hanafi madhab, if something other than the earth, its najasa is dried, will it be considered clean or not? Look into that masala and come and tell me tomorrow, inshallah. Any questions with what we've taken?
Sheikh, regarding the last question, generally we wash it.
I'm not talking about generally. Today we live in a time of abundance where if you open the tap and all the water comes out. This, they're giving you masail. That's why sometimes people think that, oh, why are they speaking about these masail? Couldn't they just all wash? No, that's not the point. Not everybody had access to water. There may be times where you don't have access to water. So what's permissible and not permissible? And there might be another ruling that comes later on. You have an asl that you can build a ruling off. You can extract a ruling. That's why when they're debating all this, they all agree that, for example, when you're wiping the head, wipe the whole head. It's better, sunnah. But when they're speaking about, is it a quarter head that's wajib or not, or what? Because they want to know, let's say someone did that, is the salah counted or not? Let's say a person is short on water. Can they do that or not? Like that. Ibrahim?
I have a question about I heard there's like this thing called a two-sided prayer mat. So, like if you get najas on one side, or then you can flip it over, something like that. How does that work?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well,
But
like,
what I would say is that today, a lot of the times, because we're so used to carpets in the masjid and tiles in the masjid and marbles in the masjid and everywhere else and at home, you find that people, if they go out and there's grass, the asl is it's clean. You read salah on that grass, it's okay. But sometimes they insist on putting a prayer mat. If you want to put it, it's okay. As long as you don't know of any najasa, it's fine. You read on the grass as is, on the sand as is. You go into a hotel room, a lot of the times people insist on putting sujada or musalla down. As long as you don't know of any najasa being on it, you can read salah on that carpet. There's nothing to say you can't. Because you've done your due diligence. There's no smell of najasa, no najasa that can be seen, etc. The asl is that it's clean. And it goes back to masala in usul, where again they differ. Is the asl, meaning is the default ruling, if you have no prior knowledge of it, do you count it as clean or dirty? There's certain default rulings that you learn. So for example, in Kitab al-Buyur, one of the default rulings is all transactions are permissible until stated otherwise. So if somebody tells you, brother, this transaction is haram, and you tell him, no, it's halal, and he tells you, prove it's halal, the evidence is not on you to bring. The evidence is on him to bring, because the default is it's halal. So you want to tell me it's haram, bring evidence to show it's haram. As for example, in a marriage or nikah, the default is everything is, or meaning in Arabic, the saying is that what's to do with the private parts in terms of people being able to have relations with one another, intercourse, etc. The asl is that it's haram until you can clear-cut prove it. So for example, a man says that somebody comes with a child and they say, oh, this is my child from so and so, and nobody knows they've been married. You tell them, prove that you are married, or prove that that's your child, if nobody ever knew, for example. Why? Because the default ruling in there is that you're not allowed to be with, to have a marital relation with the opposite gender until it's haram until you've proven it, i.e. you've taken the Islamic route to make it halal. And you find there's other default rulings like that. So similarly here we'll say that it's tahir, it's halal. I mean, there's people who when they go to the hotel, some people change, or they'll ask to change this and change that and change everything else. But generally, it's a reputable place, clean place. No musalla, read. If you want to put, I'm not saying you mustn't put. No, if you want to put, but it's not a must. If it's clean, read. On the grass, read. Out, read. It's okay. Also, I don't think they mention it here. And I'm not sure if there's a different position on the Hanafi madhab. However, performing your salah in shoes, I know definitely according to some of the other madhahib, where you can, it's sunnah from the hadith of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So people will say you walk everywhere. Yes, you walk everywhere. You may have taken that pair of shoes to the toilet. However, the fact that you walked everywhere else after that cleansed those shoes. It comes similar to a khuf. It's being wiped by the ground every time you walk. And if you want to read your salah with your shoes, you're in open areas, no carpets, etc., and you're not sure, just wipe your foot, this first and the second, meaning with your shoes. If there's anything comes off, and you read salah. For those who are not used to it, you find it's quite uncomfortable, but you get used to it. And there's places where you do read salah with you, or I won't say you do, but there's places where it's better to read salah with your shoes. Sometimes you find if there's thorns on the ground, or it's very, very hot, very cold, you find people still taking off their shoes. But yes, the Hanafi madhab, has a difference of opinion in the madhab when it comes to that. how I remember that is when it comes to Janaza Salah, you'll find that on the hottest of days, even if they're standing on the car, they'll make sure they take off their shoes. But there is, as far as I know, allowance in the madhab itself. Like how we had here a difference of opinion. Saeed?
Yes, I had a question, Sheikh. When it comes to the impurity on the body and on the clothing and on the ground, I understand because that has to do with worship. But why does it mention the impurity on a smooth surface like a sword?
So sometimes you'll find in the fiqh books, they're giving you the rulings on how to cleanse something, and then they'll just mention that fifth mas'ala to say that, okay, and since you cleanse, you need to cleanse this, and this. You might also have a question to say, what's the ruling on cleansing this? This is how it is. Why? Because maybe they got no time to put another chapter further away where they're going to put similarly when they speak about, for example, vessels, babul aniya, and they say how your vessel must be clean, and then they quickly give you a ruling on using gold and silver cups. It's not got nothing to do with tahara, but they tell you that because it's all linked.
Understood. Jazakallah khair.
Yeah. Anyone else? Before you go, you'll see. Right now, what we've taken is masail in fiqh. So just imagine all these are masail, 1, 2, 3, 4, countless masail. You've just taken a masala, you've understood this masala exists. Eventually, this same masala, you build on it, and then you take a piece of evidence, and then you debate this piece of evidence, different opinions. Then eventually you also derive your own opinion. So these are different stages of fiqh. And my master said it was because of times of one that not supposed to wear because it was dirty. And then some hadith where Jibril told the Prophet take off shoe because it had dirt on, but I didn't check regarding this. Yeah, so once the Messenger was reading Salah with his shoes on, and then all of a sudden took off his shoes. So all the Sahaba took off his shoe and said, so then he told them, why did you take off your shoe? They said, because you took off your shoe. So the Messenger says, as for my shoe, Jibril alayhi salam came to tell me there was some sort of impurity on it. So notice how he told them, why did you take off your shoes? He only took it out because of impurity, i.e., you should have remained the way you were. And there's a hadith which says that be different from the Yahud because they don't read Salah with their shoes on. So I'm not saying we're inside the masjid and where there's a carpet and go read with your shoes on. No. However, where there's allowance, you're reading outside, you're reading somewhere else, and you off the opinion that it's a sunnah to read in shoes, practice on the sunnah at least once. Any other question? No question? Okay, carrying on, inshallah. So we had taken in sarf, we spoke about marfu'. And every day I repeat the same thing because it's revision. Said you can either have dhamma, that's in 4 places, or you can have waw, and that's in 2 places, or you can have alif, and that's in 1 place, or you can have noon, and that's in 1 place. Then we moved on to mansub. And we took the first one. We said fatha. And when will mansub be with fatha? We said 3 places. First is ism mufrad. Next is jam' taksir. And third is fi'l mudari' إذا دخل عليه ناصب ولم يتصل بآخر شيء. If some sort of letter comes that makes fi'l mudari' mansub and there's nothing extra added to it, and you'll take the detail soon. Second sign to show mansub is a kasrah. When? Only in one instance. Jam' mu'annath salim. Feminine plural, which is salim. So for example, if you have a feminine word and you want to make it plural by adding alif and ta, that becomes jam' mu'annath salim. So for example, the word samawat is considered to be from jam' mu'annath salim. If it's marfu', it will take a dhamma. Samawatu. And if it's mansub, it can't take a fatha. Just that's the rule. Jam' mu'annath salim cannot be mansub with fatha. Rather, it will take kasra. So it will be samawati. You see, marfu'. Samawati mansub. وعلامة نصبه الكسرة. Why? Because it's jam' mu'annath salim. That's its rule. Muslimatun is marfu' with dhamma. And if it's mansub, you don't say رأيت مسلماتا. You say رأيت مسلمات. مسلمات. Right, see? That's why inna is a harf that gives nasb, meaning it makes the word after it mansub. Inna. Ism inna is mansub. That's why Allah says inna Allah. It can never be inna Allahu. Always inna Allah. So when Allah says innal muslimina, okay, indeed the Muslim men, wal muslimati is supposed to be, if we were taking it as with a fatha, it's supposed to be muslimata. But since we know jam' mu'annath salim will be mansub with kasrah, that's why it's innal muslimina wal muslimati wal mu'minina wal mu'minati, not ta. Why? You say mansub wa alamatu nasbihi al-kasrah because it's jam' mu'annath salim. This is the first rule that's slightly different. You're getting mansub, but you're getting a kasrah. But just learn it like that. Then remaining is 3, 4, and 5. And then we move on to majroor, which is quite simple, and then majzoom. So inshallah, by this week, you would have an idea of marfu', mansub, majzoom, and majroor, inshallah. And then after that, we'll go into detail one by one, one by one. Bismillah.